as well as becoming captivated with the men and women who were willing to risk everything to push those boundaries. The intrepid Richard Byrd was perhaps better placed than anyone to take advantage of this extraordinary time and place. Not only did Byrd use his newly developed flying skills to immediately volunteer for the Navy's attempt at crossing the Atlantic by airplane in 1919, he also developed instruments and equipment that would become indispensable to the pilot and navigator on those adventures. The aerial sextant, a device that used a bubble floating in liquid to measure the horizon despite adverse conditions, was one of Byrd's major inventions. Byrd only assisted on the 1919 naval operation to test whether a plane could fly the Atlantic, and this mission was at best a limited success. Only one of the 3 planes that made the attempt to cross from Newfoundland to the Azores and then onto Europe finished the journey, and this required a travel period of 23 days and 6 stops, while a fleet of more than 60 ships were on hand to assist should there be an accident. In spite of this slow start, flight technology would see vastly accelerated advances in the coming years. 2 weeks after his American attempt, the British pilots Alcock and Brown flew non-stop from Newfoundland to Galway, Ireland, and the American government moved away from investigating the aerial endurance of airplanes and instead focused for a time on airships. After much hard-fought lobbying, Byrd was transferred to work on one of those craft, ZR-2, which was designated to fly non-stop from Britain to the United States. On arrival in England, however, Byrd was diverted from reporting for duty with a summons to the U.S. Embassy, and so avoided catastrophe when the ZR-2 came apart over Howden near the town of Hull, resulting in the deaths of 35 crewmen. Byrd assisted with the salvage and rescue operation in the aftermath, and it had a profound effect on him in his subsequent approach to expeditions under his leadership. His biographer, Lyle A. Rose, notes that Byrd never lost a team member on any of his own operations, even those in the most inhospitable and dangerous areas on Earth. After a spell helping to establish the embryonic Naval Reserve back home in Boston, Byrd volunteered for a new endeavor, an expedition to North Greenland, organized by the National Geographic Society and led by Donald McMillan. Richard Byrd would command the U.S. Navy planes that were escorting the undertaking, while McMillan's initiative was to and powered flight together in the public mind for the first time in an explosion of daring and possibilities. After flying a plane over the near impossible to reach top of the world, Byrd and Bennett returned to the United States and were awarded the Medal of Honor. Byrd became a celebrity, comparable in some ways to the fame that Charles Lindbergh would earn when he made the first solo flight over the Atlantic a year later. In the wake of the North Pole record, Byrd led his own team to attempt the nonstop flight before Lindbergh, but a crash during takeoff on a practice flight, critically injuring co-pilot Floyd Bennett, meant that he made his own crossing of the Atlantic a couple of weeks after Lucky Lindy garnered the prize. Byrd did not let this setback deter him. Unlike Lindbergh, who largely abandoned record-setting and adventure immediately after his historic Atlantic journey, Byrd was set to attain even greater triumphs. In 1928, he led his own expedition to the Antarctic, and after a year of exploration and surveys on a number of different air and land vehicles, he, a co-pilot, navigator, and a photographer, became the first people to fly over the South Pole. The journey took 18 hours, and news of the mission's success was immediately relayed back to the United States. Byrd had brought a reporter from the New York Times who filed daily dispatches, so publicity for the journey, a single plane flying hundreds of miles over frozen waste ground with no support or hope of rescue in case of disaster, was at a peak.
And we are eager to express our thanks to the American public for having made possible our success.
Byrd's worldwide fame and heroic standing was such that every member of his expedition was awarded a
planes will add a new dimension to Antarctic exploration. Richard E. Byrd, first to blaze an air route to the North Pole, prepares for a similar flight over the bottom of the Earth. Among his supporters, the National Geographic Society. Pole below. Mission